I first want to right out the gate say a big thank you to all of our sponsors that make Naturalist Journeys Online possible. I want to thank our lead sponsor, Hunger Mountain Co-op. I also want to thank Onion River Outdoor, GreenVest, Capital Copy, and Union Mutual. So thanks to all our sponsors. And I will also just ask that if folks wouldn't mind, please keeping your microphones off throughout the talk so that, again, we're not competing with Brian's microphone. If you have any questions, I'll moderate them. Just go ahead and put them into the chat bar, and I'll either interrupt Brian if it's a good moment to do so, or we'll hold some of the questions till the end, but feel free to use the chat bar as your means of asking questions. And yeah, Brian, thank you so much for joining us, and feel free to take it away.
Thanks, Sean. And it's great to kind of, see everybody. This is a little awkward for me. This is the second one of these I've done. We did sparrows back in April, I think. And I wish we were in the same room together. When I tilt my head over this way, I'm looking at another monitor and I can see some of you on screen, which is really nice. And imagine if, well, let me just say a couple other things. One, I want to thank all those sponsors there as well. I've had the opportunity to be involved with all of those sponsors, except I'm sorry to say GreenVest, which is an investment advisor. But even Union Mutual Insurance sold me liability insurance when I was guiding nature trips for a while. So it's really great to see them here as part of this program. And if you don't know North Branch Nature Center, I will just tell you now that it's here in my backyard in Montpelier, but it obviously has a reach much farther. And so if you are so inclined, because there's going to be more and more of these presentations, we're going to be online together, I'm sorry to say, a fair amount. So if you see fit and to give and to donate to North Branch, please do. Whatever you feel comfortable giving, you can do that through the Nature Center's website. And so there's a lot of people here to talk about gulls, which is a bit odd to me. And imagine, this is actually my 5th Naturalist Journeys lecture. And those of you who have seen them in the past would know that they were actual journeys, and the first one that Ruth and I did was Naked in Norway. And imagine if the theme that we maintained through all of our Naturalist Journeys presentations, there was Naked in Norway, there was Naked in the Canyon, that was a Grand Canyon adventure. Then we stayed close to home, we were naked in Montpelier. Were we naked in all of these things? I don't think we were actually naked in all of them. And then finally, we did a fabulous trip on Lake Superior that we talked about. So imagine if we were doing Naked with Gulls tonight. How many more people might be here? Everyone fell for the naked thing. It was always a big draw. So I didn't know what to call this thing. So maybe it's Gulls, the Naked Truth, or really in some respects, it's like Gulls, like why bother? And here is a scene from some birders on Monhegan Island, sort of looking out really for shearwaters while this herring gull was sitting here not being watched. And, let's not fool ourselves. Gulls are tricky and difficult, but, if we cannot journey to Norway or to the Grand Canyon or someplace farther now, we can let gulls be the journey, because they themselves are kind of far afield. They occupy, you will find them everywhere from, polar regions, both of the poles, to your local parking lot, from shorelines to sewage ponds. They can be elegant and they can be brutish. They can be ambitious or really lazy. And even so, even as they pose for us in plain sight, they are notoriously hard to identify, And I think that's one of the reasons a lot of us don't deal with them, or at least don't know them as well as we might want to. And I think we should know them because there are journeys to be had with gulls. And some of you may remember some of the journeys that we have taken with gulls. They have inspired this short novella about, seeking a higher plane. So if gulls can do that, and gulls even inspired Jamie Wyeth to portray gulls acting out the 7 deadly sins. And, I have there's a book, it's really incredible. So he's drawing, see if you can see, oh no, I'm presenting my screen, but Jamie Wyeth painted gulls acting out the 7 deadly sins. So they are, in some ways, they're a lot like us. They are, they're a little bit of everything in nature. So why now? Why November? Why is it timely to look at gulls beyond all this really cool stuff like, their higher plane and them acting out the 7 deadly sins? Well, for starters, we're losing day length fast. And I've plotted day length, and we are here. And so the days are obviously getting shorter. The solstice is there, and we'll have some time before we get back to longer days, leading up to when we get closer to 10 hours of daylight, usually around Groundhog's Day. So, days are getting shorter. There's another graph that I was a little reluctant to post. I don't even need to title this graph. This is back in March and April, and this is now. So gulls can be a really great pandemic project. You may have decided to, I don't know, get your inbox down to 0 or do things that you've always wanted to do. Now may be a good time to look at gulls and learn gulls. These are gone, the warblers are gone. The dragonflies are gone. This is a dragonfly that is really one of the last flying dragonflies of the season. This thing's called an autumn meadowhawk. Usually you can be out looking at gulls in November and still see these, but they're pretty much gone. Monarchs have pretty much passed through, although I have seen monarchs in early December along the Maine coast, where I photographed this monarch. So a lot of the stuff that we really, really like to look at, a lot of that stuff's gone. And, gulls, as I said, we may not be able to journey with gulls, but they bring the journey to us. And I'll just tell you briefly a story about this gull. I think you can see my cursor, I hope. Not the one that I have pictured here. This is a glaucous gull. And glaucous gulls breed along the Arctic regions, like Greenland, Arctic Canada, Alaska, all across to Siberia. They are among some of the farthest north nesting birds on the planet. And as it turns out, a glaucous gull in the December of 2016 visited Vermont. And there, that photo below is Zach Coda's discovery of this glaucous gull at a composting place in Moortown, Vermont. And it was there among all the compost. And it had come from somewhere up here, and it had come a long way. And glaucous gulls do that, as we will see. Iceland gulls do that as well. We'll talk a little bit about those. But what was really interesting about this glaucous gull, there's my photo of it in December of 2016. This is a first winter or first cycle glaucous gull. This is a glaucous gull that hatched out in the spring of 2016. And it decided to fly from somewhere near the North Pole to Moortown, Vermont, to a big pile of food scraps and hang out there for a good part of the winter. And then it was gone. I think about February of 2017, it vanished. Probably went back north. Well, it just so happens that in December of 2017, a glaucous gull showed up at the same spot. And as it turns out, This is a glaucous gull that this bottom one is actually 1 year older than the glaucous gull on top. It's a second winter glaucous gull. And can I be sure that it was the same glaucous gull coming back to this pile of food scraps? No, but we cannot rule it out. We can't rule out the possibility that this glaucous gull, this young bird, flew from its breeding ground somewhere near the North Pole to Moortown, Vermont, then left in the following spring, and then came back for a second winter. Because I was able, when I found this gull again, I was able to identify its age. I could actually tell its age by how it looked. And had it been another first winter glaucous gull or a third winter glaucous gull or even an adult glaucous gull, I would have known it's not the same bird as the 2016 bird, but I couldn't rule it out. And so to me, maybe one journey is enough, but two is pretty cool. And it was nice to speculate. And you can bet the following winter in 2018, I looked for a third winter glaucous gull, and I couldn't find one there. I was really hoping, however. So, we've got these birds that come. We may not be able to get to the Arctic, but this winter, Arctic birds will come and visit us. And I think that's one reason alone to look at gulls. The other reason is, they're here. We might as well get used to them. They're in front of us, as I said. They pose for us in plain sight. And we sometimes don't know exactly what they are. And by the way, I will put names of these birds in many of the slides with dates and locations for you. It's almost as if, yeah, you can try to figure out what these gulls are, but during this talk, I'm not going to overload you with detailed field marks. You will be able to see field marks in your field guides. You don't need me to tell you specific field marks. What I'm going to try and do instead is give you just a way to be with gulls, just a way to approach them, to simplify them, and to how to deal with them when you're dealing with a mess of gulls. And as we'll see, it can get really complicated, but I really want to simplify it for you. And I don't necessarily need you to remember specific field marks or even know why this is a glaucous winged gull. I just want you to sort of sit back and relax and take it all in. And so we'll start with some basic gull biology. And, basically these are smart birds. And this is a paper that documents a herring gull, a European herring gull. I think this was in Denmark, that was actually using bread as bait to catch goldfish in a pond. There were people feeding the ducks in this pond. They were feeding the ducks bread, right? And the gull, the herring gull, would go get pieces of bread. It would swim, it would steal them from the ducks. And it would swim away from the ducks and it would drop the bread in the water. And as the goldfish came to nibble on the bread, the gull would grab the goldfish and eat them. So, there's been evidence of this with gulls in captivity, having the brain power to go fishing, to have bait. But this was a wild situation, even though it was a pond, a duck pond where people were feeding ducks. But here was a wild gull using bread as bait. So these birds are crafty, they're savvy, they're smart. They've also got audacity. Like I said, you find these things everywhere. And in some respects, during the pandemic, they're great birds for that. Because, maybe we're not going too far, but usually we can get somewhere where we can see a lot of gulls. They eat just about anything they can get their bills on, and that includes other birds. I have seen herring gulls. I've seen migrating white-crowned sparrows. They were flying across Lake Ontario. I was standing on Point Pelee, and it was at dawn, and these white-crowned sparrows had been flying all night, and they flew across, Lake Erie, and they were just trying to get to Point Pelee, and they were just flying like, a few feet over the water, and the herring gulls were waiting for them, and they were knocking them in the water. And once a white-crowned sparrow goes in the water, it's gull food, So yeah, they can be brutes, and they eat they eat puffin chicks. It can be a problem. So they eat just about anything, including whales. Gulls eat whales, live whales. There is a gull in the southern hemisphere called kelp gull that occasionally gets to North America, actually, and they are known to pick at the flesh of surfacing South Atlantic right whales. So this is a gull that has the audacity to eat flesh off live whales. I guess it can be a problem for whale calves. So they'll even eat whale. Their breeding biology, they're colonial nesters. They mostly nest in groups. They lay a variety they have different clutch sizes. I think basically based on their size. I think they vary in their egg clutch sizes by species. And the other cool thing about them is that they're wanderers. Gulls, yeah, they've got defined habitats, but they are just so good that they move. They can go far. They can go real far. And I think, here's some evidence of it. This is an ivory gull that, again, one of the farthest north nesting birds on the planet. And one turned up on Lake Champlain in Vermont in 2010. And that was a big day for me because I'd only seen immature ivory gulls in my life until then. And this is an adult ivory gull for obvious reasons. This is a black-tailed gull that when it was in Charlotte, Vermont in 2005, I think it really had no business being there. It belongs somewhere like in the Sea of Japan, So this gull had gone very far. So, even though I'm going to really get you enjoying common gull species, they will often give us the excitement of rarity and discovery from something very far away. Taxonomy, what is a gull? We're not going to spend a lot of time here, but you all know they're in this big order called the Teradriiformes. That includes shorebirds as well. The family is the Laridae, and gulls are in a subfamily of the Laridae. Actually, last time I gave this program, skuas and Jaegers, terns and noddies, and the skimmers, these were all families. They are now subfamilies, as are gulls. The Laridae are the subfamilies. They're in this family together, these birds, all similar in their overall appearance. That's a South Polar skua, that's a Caspian tern, and that's a black skimmer. So again, around water, varied diets, marine largely. Not always though, there are some inland gull species. Bonaparte's gulls, for example, nest on inland bogs. So, then here's the other thing. I'm just gonna let you read this. I'm not gonna read to you. And my dear friend, Kristen Lindquist, who is a poet and a bird watcher, wrote this, I can't remember. No, this is an older haiku from her. And Kristen's haiku, gull haikus, will be interspersed in the talk. There's not a lot of it here. I think I've got 3 of them for you. And I thought it was fitting to include haiku here because I should know about haiku. I don't really know enough about haiku. Kristen is here, I believe. She could tell us, but these are short poems that are evocative of like a moment in time. And there is usually some like mood or place involved in some wonderful object or natural thing. And I actually think gulls embody this, because they can do this for us. They can define place and moment for us. And these are Bonaparte's gulls out there among the whitecaps. So anytime, I think what I'll do is, before I'm going to give you something scary to look at, I'll give you a haiku to relax you. Okay. So something scary to look at is this. Like, what are we dealing with here? There are, I don't know, plus or minus a few, 55 species of gull in the world. In our region, in the AOU region, this is bigger than our region, really. There are 9 genera in 31 gull species. Don't leave the Zoom meeting yet, because we in the US and Canada might only find about 20 species of gull regularly. That's fewer than there are warblers in eastern US, you know. Used to be 21, but since I gave this talk last, Thayer's gull became an Iceland gull. They finally settled the war over Thayer's gull, and it's now nothing but an Iceland gull. So there's about 20 gull species that you need to concern yourself with. And we're going to look at them, and we're going to try and break them down in a really crude way, okay? And so I'm going to give you two groups of gulls. The first is group one, and these are like small, distinctive, groovy gulls. And then group two, I think many of you know, these are the more challenging, bigger, conventional white-headed gulls. So we're going to split them into two groups. These groovy gulls, they don't look like your average landfill gull, you know, particularly as adults. You know, they're different. They can be really, really distinctive. Therefore, if you're a birder, really easy to identify. And I just want you to know that adult gulls, particularly in this group, are really easy to identify. It's these, what we call the white-headed gulls, you know, the gulls that tend to be abundant for many of us. I'm going to generalize a lot here. I don't know where all of you are from, but I think this is going to generally be true for all of you. You know, we've got, you know, these group two gulls, these bigger gulls they're big, they're more of a challenge, you know, they're more of kind of a pain. Like, I don't know, like these group one gulls back in the old days when Macs were cool, like they're Macs. Group two gulls are PCs, you know. Now they're all evil, Macs and PCs, but that's one way to think of these groups. And just to sort of put a finer point on that, group one gulls are generally small. These are actual relative sizes. This is a little gull, and it is the smallest gull in the world, and I believe. And this is great black-backed gull, which is the biggest gull in the world. It's a brute. And so these groups are distinctive, not entirely by size, but in part by size. It's dangerous to generalize in biology, but I'm going to do it because we've only got an hour to talk about gulls, although we'll go longer if you want. So what distinguishes these group one gulls, these small, distinctive, groovy gulls? They tend, for the most part, they are either scarce, showing up only in certain seasons, or just not around at all. Okay. Now that's a gross generalization because laughing gull, if you are on the mid or South Atlantic coast, is your abundant gull. Okay. So, but for many of us, these group one gulls they're the rarer ones. Okay. They tend to be more elegant, you know, in flight and in their shape, pointier wings, more tern-like. We often find them airborne rather than sitting around. Again, I'm generalizing them. They take 2 or 3 years before they become adults. And for many of us, and you know, this is many of us in New England, we go out of our way to go find them. You know, like one of the most common group one gulls, Bonaparte's gulls. And when we're seeing a lot of Bonaparte's gulls, when they are abundant, particularly in the fall, we look for rarer gulls among them. So the group two gulls, the bigger gulls, they can be really, really abundant, or there may be one exceedingly rare one among them. Think, you know, landfills. These gulls will sit for you. You often, with the exception of a few of these, notably laughing gull, these gulls, these group one gulls, Heermann's gull does, most of them don't sit around. We often see them flying offshore, often too far offshore. Bigger gulls give us lots of opportunities for just dwelling with them because they sit for us. They tend to take a little longer to mature. And for these birds, we've got a separate list of what birds that we might go after in the winter among the more common to exceedingly abundant conventional gulls. So that's how we're going to sort of look at them over the course of the evening. And in order to look at them, we need a way to identify them. And so what I'm going to do now is give you some basic identification approaches. How do you look at a gull? What do you use? What specific ways do you look at gulls so we can try and figure out who they are? So I'm going to do this in stages. One is we're going to do age before beauty. We're going to sort of determine whether we have an adult or an immature gull for reasons that will become apparent. Adults are easy. The younger gulls are tough. We need to know how to look at their feathers. You know, you can't properly look at a gull until you know what those feathers are, until you know what these feathers are. These feathers that my cursor is on, I'll show you later, are different than these feathers or these feathers, even though they all look flecked. We're going to look at these first winter gulls. We're going to look at the gulls that we will go out and see now. If you go looking for gulls tomorrow, that are going to be fairly common. And then I'm going to give you just a little bit of like, how do you prepare before you go out to look for gulls? Oh, then there may be a quiz. So how do you look at a gull? Before we do any of that stuff, we're going to just generally, how do you look? You know, for birds, a good way to begin is right at the tip of the bill. And things to know on a gull's head are the gonies is actually, it's singular, and it's this ridge that forms on the two halves of the lower mandible. But there's this angle, this thing called the gonidial angle. And it is distinctive, particularly on gulls. It can be really pronounced or virtually non-existent. So we're going to look at their bills. We're going to look at their head shapes. We're going to look at things like orbital rings, this fleshy ring around the eye here. And bills are, you know, no good bird watcher overlooks bills. And you shouldn't on gulls because they are distinctive. And you can see very small gonidial angle here. These are two different gull species, okay? Their bills are somewhat similar, but this bill's gentler, more tapered. That's a standard gull, the herring gull's bill. And then sometimes bills can be just so wonderfully distinctive that all you need to see is the bill and you know what gull species you got. That's a Heermann's gull. So there. So we're going to look at bills. And then, you know, again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but, you know, you're going to use a lot of things when you look at gulls. And, you know, I don't need to tell you that these are legs, but I'm going to need to tell you that you're going to want to look at leg color. You might even look at the tips of the primaries. You're definitely going to look at gull tails when you're learning gulls. This upper side shading is distinctive. So, you know, you're going to look at various parts of gulls. Sometimes there are universal things that you always look at, and sometimes there are specific things that you got to look at in order to distinguish two very similar species. So, okay, now we're ready to sort of begin our little system here. We're going to look first at age, okay? So the question here is, I want you first identify, I'm looking at you. When I look this way, it means I'm looking at some of you on the screen here because I wish we were in the room together. But actually, I also want to, can you see my cursor there? Just nod yes or no. Okay, great. So you need to be able to identify an adult gull because they're easy and they are generally pretty distinctive. Why are these adults? Think about it yourself, you know, but all three of these are adult gulls. And generally what distinguishes, a lot of you know this already, generally what distinguishes an adult gull, they tend to be clean in their markings. There's no mottling on their upper sides. Adult gulls almost universally, almost invariably have clean white tails. Their bills tend to be really distinctive. They're not messy. They're going to be like orange or yellowish with an orange dot, or they're going to be reddish with a dark ring. You know, they're going to be a bill that you can describe. It's not like a smudgy female mallard's bill. It's a bill that has meaning and distinctiveness. Generally, their eyes are clean and clear. There's some exceptions to that. And leg color is really, really helpful. It can be deceiving sometimes. It can be unhelpful sometimes. But you're going to look at leg color. You can't often say that you look at leg color on many birds. We do on certain birds, like, blackpoll warblers or at least sandpipers. But leg color is big in gulls. So why? Oh, and then there's going to be exceptions. That is an adult black-tailed gull. So yeah, when I tell you that gull tails are white, yeah, there are some that aren't white, but virtually for all of us, if it's got a white tail, it's an adult gull. So we know, though, that gulls are not this. We know they're not this simple, right? We know that their plumages vary. We know that all gulls aren't clean and beautiful like this. How does plumage vary in gulls? Well, by season. And this is where I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but basically adult gulls and immature gulls, their plumage will change according to season, generally, but not really, twice. For our purposes, we're going to say twice a year. Breeding and winter is how gull plumages will vary. Gull plumage will also vary by age, and actually twice a year. During 1 year of a 2-year-old gull's life, its plumage might look different twice a year, but not really. It kind of continually changes throughout the year. Sometimes their feathers wear, particularly in the summer with a lot of sunlight from bleaching. It's not that significant for our purposes here, particularly if you're a beginning gull watcher. They can look different depending on how much ambient light you have, like whether it's sunny or cloudy. And you can pick any variety of reasons to blame for the difficulties in gull identification. I don't care. Take your pick. But they will vary. And in that sense, you can consider them, vexing and difficult. Like, for example, here is a public domain page out of Richard Crossley's field guide. I don't think this is the North American guide, by the way. This is lesser blackback gull. And all of these are various ages and plumages of lesser blackback gull. And you might be saying, okay, I'm done. I'm ready to go leave the meeting, click the red button and go watch, cat videos or something. But I don't want you to worry about this, because many of you might have come here because you see this and this is what you think of when you see gulls. And if you stick with me, I'm going to teach you how to deal with this tonight. Okay. So yes, they will vary by season and by age. And you may have heard, therefore, that a 4-year gull, like our most common gull, one of the most common gulls in North America, herring gull, will show you 8 different plumages, because it takes 4 years to grow up, and it will have 2 different plumages per year. I don't want you to worry about that. We're not going to do that if you're learning gulls now, okay? So I'm going to get you through this, at least I hope. So to keep it simple, here's our breeding laughing gull. I photographed this in North Carolina in March. Laughing gulls and breeding plumage have black heads. That's a groovy gull. It's really distinctive. There is a winter laughing gull. Again, the back color varies because of the lighting. But laughing gull, adult laughing gulls, it's got a white tail. It's pretty white. It's laughing gulls in winter lose their black heads. Okay, so keeping it simple. Some of you may quibble with my aging on gulls, and that's fine. If you're good enough to find fault with how I'm aging gulls, you probably don't need to be here, but I do hope you stay. Bill Thompson was kind enough to send me an immature laughing gull, a younger gull, much more mottled, darkness on the tail. And this is actually a juvenile laughing gull. Immatures look a little different than this. They go through a molt. But the point here is that younger gulls are messy. Adult gulls are clean, okay? So we know, however, that they vary by season as well, but they don't vary that much. Here is our common gull, herring gull, in breeding plumage. Here it is in winter, same bird. ignore the different photography conditions that show you different back tones here. This is a gray-backed gull with pink legs, a yellow bill with an orange spot, a little bit of black smudge, a white tail, and white tips to the primaries, okay? Breeding winter. Herring gulls in winter, they get messy on their heads. That's all you need to know. You know you got adult gulls here in each case. Ring-billed gull, breeding. Okay, it's not entirely breeding. It was going into winter plumage. In breeding, I photographed this gull in September. So in breeding plumage, it had is clean white. It's got a white tail. It's got white tips to its primaries. Gray back, no messiness, okay? A winter ring-billed gull. They get messy on their heads just like herring gulls do, okay? Both adults, they vary by season. This shouldn't be hard for you. Pink legs, yellow legs, they retain their leg color. Okay, so we're looking at gulls that look like this now. These are adult winter gulls. Well, what about the younger gulls? You know, how do they differ? Well, they differ by a lot, you know? Like if you see a messy gull that's going to scare you off, yeah, it's an immature gull. The immature gulls are going to be a challenge, and I've got a way for you to deal with this. But I don't even want you worrying how these are messy or why they're, in what particular ways they're messy now. I just want you to know it's an immature gull, you know? And the gulls on my right, I don't know if it's on your right, my right are adults, clean and messy, okay? Adults and immatures. That's all I want you to know right now. And I think many of you already know this, but we're gonna get there, don't worry. Okay, an adult great black-backed gull in September, the end of September. This is a gull that doesn't get too messy in winter. They retain whitish heads. But that is an immature great black-backed gull, okay? Adult, immature. Salt and peppery on its back, really modelly. Look at that tail. I don't know if you can see the tail. There's that white tail on this adult gull, okay? Adults and immatures. Well, as it turns out, this is an adult Bonaparte's gull, clean, white tail, really no modeling on it except its head, because this gull, many of us don't see it. It has a black head in the breeding season. I happen to visit bogs in Canada, far into Canada, where these birds breed, and I see them flying around with black heads. It's pretty cool. Well, I used to visit bogs in Canada.
Brian, quick question. From
yeah.
A couple of folks wondering, Susan's wondering, what's the purpose for the change in appearance by season? Is there an adaptive ecological reason for why they change color so dramatically?
Yeah, I mean, for one thing, the molt allows them they molt their flight feathers as well and grow new ones. So that allows them to move, to migrate. It allows them to refreshen their feathers. Yeah, I suspect it's no different than other birds. You know, they will lose a cleaner, more dramatic in the case of the black-headed gulls, you know, breeding plumage. So beyond that, I don't know if it amounts to any form of, there may be some form of sexual selection involved in these sharper, dark-headed gulls that lose their dark heads. You know, winter time, there's a lot more. No, I can't tell you. There's more snow in winter. Predators may spot them easier if they've got dark heads. So it's a breeding. You know, I don't know how much selection there is in gulls, sexual selection, but it could very well be just breeding plumage for mating and good old drabber winter plumage for survival. But I have to confess, I don't know entirely that answer. It's probably more complex than that. So is that a adult gull? No, it's pretty darn clean, but it's got a darkness on the tail and it's got mottling on its upper wings. This is an immature Bonaparte's gull because it's not clean. There are other reasons, but we're going to leave it at that. So, you know, these adults are easy, but the younger birds are the tricky ones. And so for the adult gulls, I just want you to use all of the birding skills that you have. You know, You look at field marks in your field guide. You've got a big mess of gulls. Start with the adults. Look them over. Look at their bills. Look at their leg color. Look at their feather patterns. You know, the vast majority of dark gulls are easy to identify. I'm sorry, adult gulls are easy to identify. It's when we get into these younger gulls that I think many of you, it's why you're here. And I've probably already taken half of my time to get here. But we're going to talk about these age classes, but we can't do it until we talk a little bit about feather morphology. So like, what do you do? How do you look at a young gull? How do you look at its feathers? And there are sets of feathers. If you have Sibley, he does this really well. Or if you have any of the advanced gull identification guides, they're going to identify feather groups for you. These are primaries in all, if not all gulls. There are 10 primaries. These are secondaries, the inner wing feathers. I think in most gulls, there are about, 18 or so. Those are secondaries. That's these feathers right here. These are coverts, that we'll get to those in a minute. Tertials are the innermost secondaries. And I frankly have no idea how many tertials there are. I think there's like 5 or 6 in gulls, tertials. They are the secondary feathers closest to the body. I've read that there are only 3 tertials. I don't think anyone agrees on how many tertials there are in gulls, but they are important, actually. These are the overlaying greater primary coverts. These are these short feathers that lay over with other sets of shorter feathers. The base of these primary feathers, these are big. These are called greater coverts. You're going to look at these when you identify immature gulls. We've got scapulars, the shoulders, okay? These are scaps here. These are primaries. These are secondaries. Oops, the tertials are, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. The tertials were hidden on that other bird. Sorry about that. So scaps are these shoulder feathers, secondaries, primaries. Here, we're going to look at them this way a lot, okay? Here are the scapulars. I want you concerning yourself with this row of feathers, the greater coverts and tertials, dark primaries. By the way, the tertials overlay the base of the primaries, kind of guard the primaries. They act like coverts when the wings are folded, okay? These are the wingtips. There's one wingtip, there's the other wingtip, the wing that we can't see. There's the tail. This is the amount that a wingtip extends beyond the end of the tail, the primary extension. Don't always use it, but it can be handy. So again, you don't need to memorize this right now. Look it up in your field guide. Get to know these groups in particular. So, you know, how do we apply this feather morphology? We're going to apply it now on what we call, oh, wait, that's a scary thing. We're going to apply it now for what we call first winter gulls or first cycle gulls. These are gulls that I will now show you are entering the very first year of their life. They're in the first year of their life. They're actually entering the very first winter of their life. So these are now, it's November. These are gulls that hatched out in the breeding season this year in 2020, okay? They're about to enter the first year of their life. So here's more, I love this. I really love this. So take a breather, because I'm probably going to give you now, I'm going to take a breather. I'm going to give you now the most brain hurting part of the program, okay? But stay with me, okay? So we're going to look at a 2-year gull. It's a groovy gull. It's a Mac. It's one of the groovy gulls. It's a Bonaparte's gull. And we're going to look at a Bonaparte's gull that was born in the spring of 2016. I guess I first put this program together in 2016. So we're going to look at one that hatched out in like June or April or May of 2016, okay? It's got a juvenile plumage. And then it'll actually go through a molt. After that juvenile plumage, it will molt into what we call first winter plumage. By December, this Bonaparte gull is entering the first winter of its life. It's the first time it's going into winter. So it's about 6 months old. And that's a plumage we're going to be looking at a lot. So a year later, in December of 2017, it is 1.5 years old. Remember, it was born in the spring of 2016. It is now entering the second winter of its life. And it's gone over the course of that year, it begins to look a bit more like an adult. It loses a lot of its modeliness, okay? And lo and behold, by December of 2018, it's 2.5 years old. In the spring of 2018, it was 2 years old and it became a breeding adult. It took a mere 2 years for this gull to go from juvenile to adult. And then that following winter, when it's 2.5 years old, it will be entering the third winter of its life. And it is a plain old winter adult. And for the rest of its days, it will alternate between these two plumages, breeding and winter of the adult, okay? So that is the progression. And we're looking at these winter plumages because it's winter now. And it's when we tend to look at a lot of gulls. So same thing, 3-year gull, ring-billed gull. The first winter of its life, in the winter of 2016, it's 6 months old. It's got a first winter plumage. And a year after that, it's got a second winter plumage, and it's already starting to look like an adult. It's got a gray back. Its tail is starting to clean up. And by its third winter, this gull is now 2.5 years old, and it's starting to look a lot like adult. It's getting more white spots on its wings. It's losing more of the darkness on its tail. And sure enough, by the spring of 2019, so it is now 3 years old. Remember, because it was born in the spring of 2016, it's an adult gull. It takes 3 years. It's a 3-year gull. And subsequent to that, it will alternate between breeding and winter plumage, all the while with white tails, okay? That's an adult gull. So same thing with 4-year gulls, and I'm not gonna dwell on it here, but know that there is a progression here, and it's like anything else. It's like gannets or eagles. As you mature, you start to look more like an adult. Now, it would be nice if these were indeed quantum changes in plumage, but they're not. This whole progression is kind of gradual. But for tonight, and for many of you, I want you looking at gulls now in what we call these early winter plumages, because they are distinctive. And they are, if you want to tackle immature gulls, now is the time to do it, for all the reasons I said above. It's November and we're in a pandemic, you know, and the days are getting shorter. So work on these winter gulls, winter adults, but we're also going to work on these first winter birds. And, you know, I'm going to have you focus on, you know, like I said, there are various immature stages of gulls. I don't want you worrying right now, tonight or tomorrow, or if you're new to gulls. I only want you thinking about first winter immature gulls. The gulls that are now, the gulls that hatched out in the spring that are now 6 months old, okay? And this is a first winter herring gull, and they generally look like this. They're brown and mottly. They're as mottled as a herring gull will get. And you're gonna say to yourself, I don't wanna deal with that, you know? I just want to deal with adult gulls. Well, that's fine. You don't have to deal with these gulls. You can ignore them. But if you want to find rare gulls, you got to deal with first winter gulls. Okay, I'm sorry. And there's a reason for that. And this is the reason. The reason is that in terms of abundance, this time of year when we're gull watching, when you go out and look at a flock of gulls, most of them are going to be adults because gulls live like 20 years or so, 25 years. So you have a lot of older gulls. Their ages 4, 5, 6, and upwards. They're out there in the flock. But the second most abundant, or sometimes the most abundant age class of gull, remember, these all look alike. 4 years and older, or 5th winter and older, they all look alike. The next most abundant class are going to be these first winter gulls, okay? And why is that? You know, why are the first winter gulls the most abundant? Well, because a lot of them hatched out this past spring. There are a lot of young gulls around, 6-month-old gulls, if you will, 7-month-old gulls that are still living. And the reason they are most abundant, frankly, is that they haven't died yet. A lot of birds never make it to their first birthday. So the second most abundant age class of gulls will be, and I'm generalizing, but it's pretty good rule, these first winter gulls. And that includes the rare gulls. You know, you're either going to see an adult or more often a first winter rare gull. So it pays to focus on those plumages and know those plumages. And once you know adult plumages in winter, and once you know first winter plumages in winter, you can work on these other age classes. But right now, if you're going to find a Iceland gull or you want to find a glaucous gull, odds are it's going to be a first winter bird here. So learn these now. So ignore all those other pictures. Look at the adults and look at the first winter birds. Begin there. So, and you'll often see this, you know, you'll see an adult herring gull and you'll see its fledgling, its chick, still begging in the fall. So that's an adult and that's a first winter bird. So these are going to be what you're going to see out there. And I don't want you to, again, here on the right, this is an adult great black-backed gull. This is a first winter great black-backed gull. This is an adult herring gull. This is a first winter herring gull. These are what you're going to see out there. So you pick any flock of birds and you say, okay, well, I see the adults. You know, there's an adult great black-backed gull. There's an adult herring gull, you know, pink legs, yellow bill, clean, white tail. Here's an adult ring-billed gull, yellow bill, a ring around its bill, yellow legs. You may not see the colors that well on your screens, but you can pick out the adults. They're clean, it's winter, they have mottled heads. Okay, what's that bird? That is an immature gull if there ever was one. That's a first winter herring gull. It's brown and mottled. Might even be a juvenile. It's somewhere in that range. You know it's a young gull. This one's a little in betweener. Yeah, it's mottled, but it's also got a gray back, you know? That's a second year bird. That's a different class. You can ignore those. Start here with the adults and start looking at these younger birds. This is what you're going to see. The most abundant gulls out here are these really young gulls and these adults. There are a fair amount of second year birds out there, but that's what you're going to see in these flocks of gulls. These are all these great black-backed gulls. Look how clean white they are in black. Adult, adult, adult. I don't think there is a young great black-backed gull in here. There probably is, but maybe not. They all look like adults. Oh no, there's one. If you can see my cursor upper right, that is probably a first winter great black-backed gull. Okay. So, you know, this is what I want you to do for homework. We're like doing really well here. I don't know what time, I have no idea what time it is, but this is, oh gosh, it's 8. So your homework is, you're gonna have to bear with me here. We're gonna go over. Your homework is learn your 3 common gull species, because there are only 3 common gull species where you are for the most part. And I'm gonna show you why, okay? I'm gonna skip that for now. And we're gonna go to why there are only 3 common gull species near you. You only have to learn 3 gulls right now if you're a beginner. Like, here's all these gulls. Nope. Here's what you're going to do. We're going to follow Bryan's 99% rule. So what I did was I looked at Christmas bird count data for 7 places. And this is basically December and January. And I counted the number of gulls that there were. I added up all the gulls by abundance in each of these areas. Okay. So here they are. 99% of the gulls in the Northeast were these 4 species. And the vast majority of them were these 3: herring gull, ring-bill, and great black-backed gull. Mid-Atlantic, ring-billed gull, herring gull, great black-backed gull, laughing gull, Bonaparte's gull. Farther south you go, laughing gull becomes really abundant. So there are these gull, when you get to California and they'll get to the West Coast, the gull watching there is fabulous. It's diverse. They're hybrids. It's really, really challenging and wonderful. But for many of us, we've really only got 3 gull species to worry about in the winter. And here they are. Herring gull is one of them. Ring-billed gull shows up a lot. And great black-backed gull shows up, particularly in the northeastern portion of the continent. So particularly for many of us in the Northeast here or the Mid-Atlantic, there are really only 3 gulls that you're going to see. 99% of the gulls out there are going to be these 3 species, okay? So the challenge is for you, for the ones who already know these gulls, the challenge of you is to find out the 1%ers. What are the other gulls? Like, what's next on these lists? What are the 1% gulls, And there is a distinct known class of 1%ers. And for the Northeast, in the winter, you're going to see Iceland gull, glaucous gull, lesser black-backed gull, little gull. They tend to be more fall, and kittiwake. They also tend to be more in the fall. If you're on the Maine coast, however, or the Atlantic or the Massachusetts coast, kittiwakes show up in the winter. Okay, so Mid-Atlantic, kittiwakes show up. Bonaparte's gulls are there. Laughing gulls tend to drop out in the winter. Oh, that's Mid-Atlantic. Laughing gulls drop out from the New England coast in the winter. But you really have, 3 common gull species that you need to learn. And then you just need to learn how to get with some of these rarer gulls that are going to show up. All right. And so, you can go on eBird, you can talk to your friends, and you can find out what these other gulls are. And that is that's sort of like where I want to almost, in some respects, I'm going to leave you with this here. You're going to learn your first winter gulls and your adult gulls, but I want you to focus on the 1%ers. And there are not many of them. Like, the best gull watching day I've ever had in New England was 10 species of gull in one day. 99% of them were herring gull. 99% of them were herring gulls, or 98% of them were, and great black-backed gulls. So there are going to be a few other gulls out there, but most of you are only going to see 3 to 5 gull species when you go out looking. So that big list, that big mess of gulls suddenly becomes more manageable when you know what to look for. And so, what I want you to do, we're not going to do that tonight, but I want you to learn your 3 common gull species, but then I want you to learn your 1%ers, and I don't know how many I've lost so far, but we can go through some of the 1%ers now. So it's been an hour, it's been not quite an hour. I've been talking gulls at you. But what I want to do now, and for those of you who this is what's great about Zoom meetings, right? You can leave if you want. I won't know, I'll understand. But what I want to do is, in some ways, I'm going to wrap up now for those of you who want to leave, but I've got some other really good stuff to share with you. And this program will be on North Branch Nature Center's website. There are some wonderful references for you to learn the 1%ers and to learn about gulls. And I have to say, if you really want to geek out about gulls, you should go to this website, anything Laris, which is far and away just the best website on gull watching. Amar Ayash is a guy, you're going to see some of his photos. He runs this site. He's like the god of gulls. And if you really, really want, and there's a search bar there and you can look up gull species. He blogs and has lots and lots of photos of gulls. There are field guides to gulls that you can get. You can use eBird, of course, to discover those 1%ers. You know, if you really want to got it in your head to go find an Iceland gull, you'll find it on eBird and iNaturalist. Our tools, we've got lots of tools for doing this. I've got, and I realize I need to update this. On my own website, I have got a list of resources for you. This needs work. I'm going to work on this tomorrow morning. But if you go to my website, bryanpfeiffer.com/gulls, I'm going to include links to some good gull resources for you, including my map. And this is a map. There's a map to New England gull watching sites. You know, there may be some of you not from New England. And if you've got good gull watching sites, send them to me and I'll add them to the map. You can see most of these are coastal. So I've got a map to places where you can go watch gulls. Many of us are not leaving our home states now, particularly in Vermont. There's quarantine requirements now. So everything's changed. But there are gulls. For most of us, there are places to go to watch gulls. So, you know, in some ways, we can end here, okay? But if you stick with me, what I will do is I'm going to show you 3 1%ers. And they're sort of like little case studies. And in showing you these 1%ers, adults and first winter birds, I'm going to give you more gull identification skills, how to look at feathers and ways to look at gulls that you may not have noticed in the field guide or that the field guide doesn't tell you. So I think there are examples in each one of these 3 species. Maybe, we'll see. Oh, here's Kristen's website. Kristen writes a haiku every day. And her haiku blog is called Book of Days. So you can get a haiku from Kristen every day if you go to her website and then go to her blog. So this is, by the way, this is the harbor looking at Manana, the harbor at Monhegan Island. Many of you will know. As it turns out, I'll be completely honest, that's actually sunset, as anyone who's been on Monhegan knows. But you get the idea. Where are we going here? We're going to do this. We're going to go to these 1%ers, okay? And we're going to start with a video. And it's one thing to look at gulls. I'm going to put on my, I have my North Branch Nature Center hat I should put on. I got to get into like serious gull watching mode here. You know, it's one thing to like look at gulls in slides and have me talk about them. It's another thing to be out there with the wind blowing and gulls flying around and your scope shaking and, you know, it's cold. And there's somebody next to you without a mask. You know, there's all sorts of things to worry about as if gulls themselves weren't difficult enough. So what I hope to do is give you a sense. There is a 1%er among these gulls. And there are not many gulls here, okay? So I'm going to run this video, I hope, and see if you can spot the 1%er. I'm not even going to tell you what these gulls are yet. I think most of you can see they're adult gulls. This is tough. Some of you may have seen it. I'm going to play it again, and I'm going to stop it when the 1%er, I'm going to show it to you, okay? By the way, I'll tell you now, these are ring-billed gulls, and with that one great black-backed gull. You may see it. Again, I recognize the video quality may not be that good. Yellow legs, ring around the bill. These are all adults. There's the great black-backed. Okay, I think I can try this. Check this out. Can I do this? Maybe. Right there. Okay, that's a 1%er. That is an immature gull, and that is a first winter Iceland gull. And you can just, if you look at the black wingtip on this ring-billed gull, and then watch the wingtips on this gull. They are somewhat smudgy, but this gull also has an all dark bill, okay? And it's got a white wingtip. And I don't know if you, so I'm gonna try and, I'm gonna run it again and stop it, okay? I think I can do this. But watch this gull. I hope this works. Oh, darn. Oh, darn it. Hang on. You get to see it again. It's going to take off. Okay, look, you can see the black bill. You know, there's again, lousy video quality, but you can see the white flash on the wingtip. You can't see the, you'll see the plumage on this thing in other photos. That is an immature gull. Its bill's all black, okay? Its back may look clean to you, but it's not. There's the wing view. The tail is somewhat smudgy. Again, bad video. There's a 1%er, okay? Here's one of our 1%ers. This is an Iceland gull on the left. This is a herring gull on the right. And this is a classic winter herring gull. Black wingtips, white mirrors, white tail. It's an adult. Here's the thing I think I want to tell you about Iceland gulls. For those of you who may know adult Iceland gulls, they are not icy white. We call them white-winged gulls. Iceland gulls have grayish backs, okay? They are paler than herring gulls. Oops. Hey, look at that. Someone drew. Everett. Yeah. So you can, I didn't know anyone else could do that. So you can, oh, maybe Everett wanted me to point out these darker wingtips. There are different races of Iceland gulls, and they go from the nominate race, Glaucoides, for those of you who know them, to what this gull is, we call a Kumlian's gull, Kumliani, all the way to Thayers that look very much like herring gulls. So the amount of black on the wingtip of an Iceland gull can vary substantially. Most of us in the Northeast see this race, Kumlian's gull. If you live out in the Midwest, you're seeing Thayer's gulls. That's an Iceland gull, Thayeri, I guess. But most of us see this. The white-tipped Iceland gulls with no black on their wings are exceedingly rare, even on the East Coast. So that, just know that adult Iceland gulls are not necessarily icy white, okay? Here they are again, side by side, okay? And you can see the wingtips are grayer in this Kumlian's gull. This is a herring gull, pretty gentle bill. This is probably a female. And look how, just, if you look at the head of this Iceland gull, it's just more pigeon-like. It's ever so slightly gentler. Its gonadial angle is not as sharp. Its bill is just ever so slightly gentler. And they will vary, okay? But the point I want to make to you is that you're scanning through a flock of adult gulls and you're looking for an Iceland gull. If you're not careful, you're going to just pass this off as a herring gull because it's gray back and smudgy head, not as smudgy as a herring gull. Again, this is actually a third winter Iceland gull, but their foreheads are steeper. I'm not sure I want to dwell here because we got lots of other stuff to do. But this is that gull in the video. This is the first winter Iceland gull. And if you're looking for rare gulls in the Northeast, you got to learn this gull. You got to know this plumage. All black bill, flecked markings, some smudginess on the wingtips and on the tail. The tails are flecked like this as well. But you're not going to see any herring gull that looks like that in the first winter. They're brown mottly things. Iceland gulls, first winter, and this is, in many respects, the most common form of Iceland gull for many of us. The Iceland gulls that show up for most of us come visiting from the Arctic, they're adults. I'm sorry, they're immature birds. They're first winter birds. And then after that, there will be adults. So the vast majority of times I find Iceland gull, which is usually every winter in ones or twos, they're first winter birds. That's why you got to learn first winter Iceland gulls and first winter birds of all these rare birds, rare gulls that you might be after. Okay. So flock of gulls, I'm going to annotate this if I can. I think I'm annotating, adult gulls, adult herring gulls, immature herring gull, obviously, first winter bird there, probably a second winter herring gull there. But that's probably a second winter herring gull. What's that right there? I'm going to clear this. That is not like these other immature gulls. That is an immature, that's a first winter Iceland gull. Look how much darker the first winter herring gulls are. These second winter gulls, probably a second winter, has a bicolored bill. So this is what you're looking for when you're looking for Iceland gulls for the most part in the wintertime. So I think I can move on. We got lots more to do. Okay, this is an old composting spot that's no longer there, but I'm looking at adult gulls, even the blurry ones. That's a herring gull, it's got pink legs. That's a ring-billed gull, it's got yellow legs. Right there is a first winter herring gull. There's another first winter, the brown jobs, another first winter herring gull. And if you weren't careful, you'd pass that off as a first winter herring gull, but it's not. This is actually a Thayer's gull. And I won't go into this. There's a great blackback gull, by the way, right there. This is a very dark Iceland gull. And that's the darkest form of Iceland gull, the ones that breed in the sort of central Arctic. As you go farther west, they get darker. And that thing's approaching the darkness of a first winter herring gull. Look how dark the wingtips are. They're dark. This was Vermont's first Thayer's gull that I spotted with Ted Murin. That was a first state record that I lost once they lumped this with Iceland gull. So that is nothing but a very dark Iceland gull now. And that was at the Intervale landfill, the Intervale composting project, which unfortunately is not there anymore. Okay, moving right along. Here you go. This is that grow compost place in Moortown. Here is an Iceland gull. It's got that pale flecking. It's got an all gentle head, dark bill, okay? And this is Julie. I think she's here. This is her photo. And this is like a blessing to me, Julie. So this is that composting place in Moortown. There is an adult herring gull. There is obviously an adult great blackback gull. What, pray tell, is this here? Looks a lot like this Iceland gull, okay? But what's different about it? Well, remember I told you bills matter. The most obvious difference is this thing has a really nice two-tone bill. It's like candy corn, like the good kind of candy corn, not the orange and yellow stuff. It's got a pink and black bill. And it's got got more of a blockier head. And it's big. It's actually bigger than this gull. And it's actually bigger than everything out here except for this great blackback gull. Like this may be the second biggest gull in the world. This gull, if I can get it for you, is a glaucous gull, okay? And as it turns out, it's a first winter glaucous gull. And they are whiter than first winter Iceland gulls, particularly on their heads, but the best mark is their bicolored bill. And so again, these are two Arctic visitors. And the birds that come from the Arctics are not necessarily the really well-seasoned adults. They're the young birds. Okay, so you got to know first winter glaucous gull as well. And Julie got a shot of them. This is just like heaven to me. Here they are. There is the Iceland gull. Here is the bigger, block-ear-headed glaucous gull with a gargantuan build, a beast of a great black-backed gull, okay? So even subtle differences in head shape, paler on the glaucous gull. Glaucous gull is a more, its name, its scientific name is Larus hyperboreus. You know, it is a whitish gull. It's glaucous. So can I clear that? And we'll go on, okay? Massachusetts at the Godfrey Fishing Pier in Gloucester, another first winter glaucous gull. You know, you need to look at these herring gulls. You need to know these brown birds so that in a crowd, this is going to jump out at you. It's not another motley bird. And believe me, it's not always easy. It's not always this obvious. Great black-backed gull, a first winter bird, most likely. Whitish head, salt and peppery back. This is really, really a good way to tell the difference between first winter great black-backed gull and first winter herring gulls. Great black-backed gulls' heads are really whitish in winter. They're still motley, but they're cleaner. Okay. 3 first-year birds, 3 first winter birds together. Moving right along. Okay, another video, more video. This one's going to be a challenge here. What I want you to do here, this is really typical. And when I shot this video with a really old point shoot long ago, I wish I'd shot more gull video for you, but this is a big mess of gulls on Niles Pond in Gloucester, Massachusetts in December of some year. And you are going to see, as I pan these gulls, a lot of adults, as we know, and a lot of first winter birds. You can already see the first winter birds in here. You can see the adults and you can see the first winter birds. I'm going to try and annotate this as well, okay? But what I want you to do is I want you to start picking out the 1%ers from here. And I'll already tell you, should I tell you? No, I'm not going to tell you. There are a lot of 1%ers of one species only in here. And they're pretty variable. But again, this is a crappy video, but it's a good way to learn because it reproduces crappy conditions outside in winter. But you can see immature herring gull here. That's a first winter great black-backed gull. Look how white its head is. There's an adult herring gull right there, right? I'm not sure I see any 1%ers. I do see a 1%er in here. I'm not going to show it to you yet, but I'm going to pause this for you and just see if you can pick out a 1%er in here. There are going to be, like, it's not just one of these birds does not belong. There are a number of one bird species that really does not belong among these more common gulls. So ready? Here we go. I think. Can I do it? Yeah. All right. Where's my?
How do we do it, Brian?
What?
How do we pick out the 1%er?
I'm going to stop for you, I hope, and I want you to look through these gulls. So remember, here's what I want to tell you: the 1%er, and I'll give you this clue here. It's either going to be a first winter gull, so it's not going to be a first winter herring gull, or it's going to be an adult that doesn't look like any of these, you know? So I just want you to find something that looks different than what you see here. And what you see here is a classic first winter herring gull, plainly brown, black wingtips, black darkish tertials, okay? And adult birds, clean, mottled head because it's winter, dark wingtips. I'm a little worried that I may not be able to pause this for you. So I'm hoping that you will see this. Let's see if I can. I'm going to stop it for you, don't worry. Although I'm a little worried that I'm not going to be able to stop it now because I can't get, yeah. I can't. There's one, but I can't stop this. Why isn't my video? There's one. Okay, there's another one. in front. Oh man, I can't pause this video for some reason. Let me go back. Sorry about this, folks. I'll tell you what, I think I know what to do. Hang on. Okay, got it. I'm going to pause you when I find the first 1%er. Okay. Oh, shoot. Okay, wait. No, we're going to do it. Have faith. Oh, man. Okay, bear with me. I'm going to stop it when I see the first 1%er. Okay, I've got a 1%er in there. So the 99% are like these modelly things with dark wingtips. There is a great black-backed gull with a white head and a really heavy honking all black bill, first winter bird. What's this here? Can I annotate? Yeah. What's this? That is different. Look at the wingtips. Okay. What is this right here? Yeah, it's a modelly gull, but look at the gull behind it and look at those wingtips. These are white-winged gulls, right? These are 1%ers. These are not herring gulls and they're not great black-backed gulls. And as you learn this stuff, you know, a lot of you are basically, you're going to look through flocks of birds like this. You might not necessarily pan your scope, but you're going to look through flocks of birds like this and you need to look at every herring gull and you need to convince yourself, yeah, that's a herring gull. It's not something else. And if you do that, if you learn these herring gulls, it's kind of like when I did the sparrow lecture. Like if you want to know sparrows, you got to know song sparrow. You got to know it, everything about it. You need to look at a song sparrow and say, yeah, that's a song sparrow. It's not a Savannah sparrow. It's not a Lincoln sparrow. It's not a Vesper sparrow. You know, in the same way, you need to know herring gull, particularly if you live in New England, you know, or many other places. And you need to know first winter herring gull. And then like, if you're going to do any homework tonight, you're going to go study first winter herring gulls in your field guide. And then you're going to go out and 99% of the first winter birds are going to be like first winter herring gulls or first winter ring-billed gulls, you know? And so only then will these gulls, including even rarer ones, start to pop out at you. It gets more difficult than this, I'm sorry to say. But let's see if I can get it back. So there are going to be more Iceland gulls in here, okay? There are going to be more. And I may or may not be able to, I will try to stop it for you again. Right, there is one. I hope you can see my cursor. There's that one. There's another Iceland gull. If we look hard, we may find others. Oh, here we go. Right here, right? Look at the wingtips. White, right? Have we looked at that one? Yeah, I guess we looked at that one. Those are Iceland gulls. By the way, there were Thayer's gulls in here. We're not going to deal with that now. Okay. We're going to keep going. There are a lot of Iceland gulls in here. Look, I've got another one down here. Look around. You're going to find other Iceland gulls. So this requires a certain kind of focus. It's like you need to know these dark gulls and know that they're herring gulls. For the most part, unless you're looking for a lesser blackback gull now, you're going to blow off these first year birds. You know, you're just saying, I know, hey, I know these first winter herring gulls. I'm looking for other modelly birds that aren't so dark. There's more of them here. Okay. Oh, I got another one. I got more. You know, like look at this bird right here. There's another one. Okay, here's another one. Look at the wingtips. Right? So there you go. These things don't necessarily pop out at you. And look at this. All right, look at here. Another one. I want to make that a glaucous gull. We might. There's another one right there. This is a great black-backed gull. Dark back, salt and peppery, whitish head. You will see that on a herring gull, but like, I'll tell you, great mark for first winter great black-backed gull, white head, honker of a black bill. They're, for the most part, their bills are black in their first year. Here's another one. Here's probably another one. That thing, I want to make a glaucous gull. It might be. I haven't really looked at this in a while. So we're going to move on, though. This requires like deliberate. No, it's not a glaucous gull. Its bill is not bicolored. Got it? That gull right there. Glaucous gulls in their first winter and onward will never show an all black bill. So, this requires like deliberate looking. That's I guess that's the best way to say this. You got to plow through everything. All right, this is the last one, and then we'll wrap it up. I'm gone way over. I'm sorry, everyone. Gosh, I can't believe you're still here. Well, good. Some of you are leaving. So, sorry this has gone long. This will take us another 10 minutes, so you feel free to bail. But I'm terribly sorry for going long here. But this is a common gull on the right, a great black-backed gull. You should know it by now, or you will know it. Pink legs, black back, relatively clean head, including winter. This bird looks very similar, but it's got yellow legs and a dirty head. And it's not quite as black as the one on the right. These are adult lesser black-backed gulls. And one of the marks that you may get fooled about, and this is again, Sean Beckett, who brought us this program, got me this photo, okay? So one thing to know about lesser black-backed gulls, a lot of these marks you'll see in the book, do know that adult lesser black-backed gulls, the race that we have here in North America, are grayer than great black-backed gulls. You can see this in the field. They're not as black, and their heads are smudgy. So even without seeing legs, if you see a dark-backed gull with a smudgy head in the wintertime, you don't have a great black-backed gull. And if you see yellow legs, odds are it's a lesser black-backed gull. Look at its bill. Look how much gentler its bill is compared to the honker on our great black-backed gull. These are adult gulls, white tails, but they're mottled because it's winter. So, by the way, there are two other races of lesser black-backed gull that have darker backs. Luckily, the one that we see in North America has this slightly grayer back than the great black-backed gulls. This is a challenge, and because it's 8:30, I probably won't spend a lot of time going into these. First winter lesser black-backed gulls are really tough, but I will tell you quickly a couple of foolproof field marks. First of all, if your first winter bird that looks like a herring gull has a bicolored bill, it's not a lesser black-backed gull. Lesser black-backed gulls have dark bills in their first winter. So if you got a bird, you're working on it, you think it's a lesser black-backed gull, if it shows pinkish at the base, it's not a lesser black-backed gull. They tend to, remember the greater coverts, which are, I can't believe how long I'm going here, but I'm going to annotate this. You're free to go. Am I annotating? Yes. These are the greater coverts on lesser black-backed gull. This is why you need to learn these feathers. On lesser black-backed gull, first winter birds, they tend to be cleaner black. Whereas on herring gull, they're speckly. I have seen plenty of lesser black-backed gulls with speckled greater coverts. Usually not there, right there. They tend to have darker tertials, darker unmarked tertials than herring gulls. But there's another really good, they tend to be a little bit more speckled on their under tail coverts than herring gulls. These are really subtle marks. Let's see if the other mark, if I have another slide that also shows them to you. I don't think I do, but this requires study. these birds are really tough to ID. Their heads tend to be paler, particularly as the winter goes on. But, you know, okay, here we go. I should skip this. This is a lot, these birds, you know, I'm going to lose a lot of you now because that's a lesser black-backed gull in front, and that is a herring gull in back, you know. Let's talk about birds in flight. You'll see a little bit what I mean on those greater coverts. This is a first-year lesser black-backed gull in flight. There are the cleaner, oops, hang on. Oh yeah, there they are, hang on. There are the cleaner greater coverts. And there's a better mark though that I should give you before I give you that. This is a herring gull. This is actually a second winter herring gull here. But look at this pale spot on the wing. They tend to be more uniform on their wing, lesser black-backed gulls. They're also really long winged, longer, slender winged. Here they are together. Here's that pale patch on a first winter herring gull. It's not as pale on a lesser black-backed gull. There are differences here. Again, these greater coverts though, they look pretty solid here. But this bird, I wish I had one sitting, but again, a really tough ID, you know. The tail patterns are slightly different. They tend to be a little paler on their outer tail feathers. These guys tend to have an all solid black tail. But again, this bird has an all black bill. This bird has kind of a bicolored bill. That's not a lesser black-backed gull. This wing patch here, this paler inner primaries, that's actually a pretty good mark. If you see that, you got a herring gull. You know, don't be thinking lesser black-backed gull. And then I think we're going to wrap it up. So let's go on here. These are summer birds. The thing I'll tell you about lesser black-backed gull, and I don't know that any of these pictures is showing it, it looks as if lesser black-backed gulls are elongated. It looks as if someone grabbed them by their wingtips and tugged them and stretched them out a little bit. Okay, so they have kind of a longer tapered posture. And so this bird here is a great black-backed gull, probably this photo was July of 2015. So this is a first cycle. This is like a first summer great black-backed gull. Look how white its head is. It's getting this bicolored bill. This is a 1-year-old herring gull, and this is a 1-year-old lesser black-backed gull. A lot of these feathers are worn and molting. This is a longer, more slender, more smaller gull than these other two. That's the point I really want to make here. And I don't know whether I should do this. I guess enough of you are here. This is going to be the final gull. And this is just to show you, this is sort of how do you sort of alert yourself when something's not right, okay? So we're out there at Niles Pond where I panned through a lot of those gulls in the video. And here's a dark-backed gull with pink legs. And you might say to yourself, oh, well, that's a great black-backed gull. It's a 99%er. There should be a lot of great black-backed gulls out here. Well, remember one thing about winter great black-backed gulls, adults, they do not have mottled heads, okay? So you see this dark-backed gull with a mottled head, and you gotta drop everything and work on this gull, especially if you see pink legs, because adult lesser black-backed gulls look like this to some extent, but they have yellow legs. So you see this gull and you're like, okay, this is something else. And it turns out I'm going to move on, but it turns out this is a slaty-backed gull. That really, again, has no business being here. It's a slaty-backed is, I don't even know, Eurasian in its distribution. And there's a distinctive mark on slaty-backed gull, and it's called the string of pearls. And it's right here. The primaries, instead of only having white tips, has inner white spots that come in from the wingtip. And they're normally not this black. This is a really lousy picture. I think I might have a better shot for you in the next shot. And we really are wrapping it up, so fear not. So again, a dark-backed gull, really slaty in color, not black, and a sturdy head in winter and pink legs. And it's got these string of pearls right here. It doesn't just have these white wingtips, right, which a lot of these 4-year gulls have. It's got inner white markings here. And that is a really nice mark, among others, for slaty-backed gull. So there are certain gulls that require specific field marks. So, but if you see this gull, you're going to need to know in advance, wait a minute, there are things not adding up here. I have a dark-backed gull with a smudgy head and pink legs. That's not a 99%er, that's something else. Turns out this is like a 0.1%er, although they're turning up now fairly regularly in North America. So I'm going to end it there because it's way too late. And I don't know what we'll do next, but I guess I'll show you that there is opportunity to be had here, you know, even among garbage. And gosh, there's a lot of garbage in the world right now in so many ways. So maybe we can make the best of it and actually do a little birding there when we get a chance.